All right, guys. So we're at that final stretch. We're getting ready for the final. And today we're gonna do our final review. All right. Um, last day is the 23rd of December. Yeah. But like, I mean, when you say turn in work though, I mean like that's like the homework. For the test corrections, you guys have to, I would say like the 21st, because I'm not gonna be on campus after that. So 21st, I would say is like the last. Mhm. All right. So we did test three. Everybody got their test back. I feel like test three was really, really good, right, compared to the other two tests. The final is gonna be next week. I'm gonna tell you right now, on the 17th. So basically, like our usual class time. That's when the final is. Our usual class time. Yeah. And it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, like we're gonna meet, take the final. What I like to do today is I want to go over questions that are gonna be on the final so that like you guys can be well prepared. I have shared. Hold on one second. Let me get to the chat real quick. I did share with everybody in the announcements, excuse me, um the review for the final. So I'm gonna do that again right now in case anybody hasn't seen it. Just bear with me one second. Okay. In case anybody wants to look at that. You guys can all open that up and look at it and tell me, is there anything like crazy on there that you don't remember seeing? Also, let me give you guys these again. All right, you guys have your formula sheets as well. Please bring them to the exam with you and your calculator, of course. All right. So in the meantime, hello, hello. So in the meantime, you guys can look over that review. Tell me if there's any questions in there that like looks a little foreign, and then we'll look over that. Um, what I'm gonna do right now though is I'm gonna actually do some random questions off of the final, and then we'll call it a day at that. But you guys are welcome to like time. Hello? All right. So here's a question that's gonna be on the final. It's not going to be this exact question, but you're going to see something like this on the final, right? So given f of x is equal to 3x squared plus 2x minus 4, find f of negative 4. So f of negative 4, right? Remember, everywhere you have a variable, you put a parenthesis. So this becomes 3 times negative 4 squared plus 2 times negative 4 minus 4. And then you just do the math on that. You could type it in the calculator or you could just do it by hand, right? This is 3 times 16 minus 8 minus 4. You know what? I shouldn't have done that. I'm skipping steps. I'm sorry about that. Plus 2 times negative 4 minus 4. Okay. And then now you can go ahead and do that, right? So 3 times 16, what's that? 48, I think. Yeah. So 48 minus 8 and then minus 4, right? And then 48 minus 8 is just 40 minus 4. Let's call that 36. All right. Is there any questions on this? Anybody? Yep, we can definitely do that. Let me get the review open. So this is 5C from the review, everybody. And the instructions tell us to find the values for which this expression will be undefined, right? Very simply, all you'd have to do to answer this question is you set the denominator equal to 0, right? I really don't care about the numerator. I care about the denominator. What numbers can I plug in to make that denominator equal to 0, right? So what I do is I have 2x squared minus 7x plus 6. And you have a couple of techniques now under your belt to answer this, right? So we have factoring, right, with the AC method. We have what's the other thing? We have the quadratic formula. We have completing the square. So you guys have a lot of options now, right? But let's recap the AC method just in case anybody wanted to see that. So A times C is going to be what? 2 times 6. I'm going to call that 12. And my B term is -7. I need two numbers that when I multiply will give me a positive 12, but when I add them together will give me a -7. So I'm thinking about -4 and -3. That's positive 12. And -4 plus -3, that's -7. Let's rewrite this. This becomes 2x squared minus 4x minus 3x plus 6. And then we want to factor by grouping, right? So I'm going to group the first two terms together, group the last two terms together. What do they have in common in the first group? I have 2x squared minus 4x. They both have 2x in common. So remember, when you factor out a 2x, it's like you're dividing by 2x. It's like you're dividing by 2x, right? 2 and 2 cancels. X and the square will cancel out, leaving back just x. And then these x's will cancel. -4 divided by 2 is going to give me a -2. On the right-hand side, I have negative 3x plus 6. I'm going to factor out the -3. And remember, when you factor out -3, it's like you're dividing by -3, like you're dividing by -3. -3, -3 will cancel out, leaving back x. 6 divided by -3 is going to give me a -2. All right. And then now, what do you want to do? You want to do the greatest common factor again. So what do we have in common? We have x minus 2 in common. And what's left over on the outside? This is the 2x minus 3. Right? So these are my factors, right? But again, I don't really care about these. What I care about is what values will make it 0. So I want to set both of these equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0. 2x minus 3 equals 0. And I'm just going to solve for x. So I'm going to add 2 here, add 2 here. This is x is equal to 2. I'm going to add 3 here, add 3 here. So I have 2x is equal to 3. Then I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. So I have x is equal to 3 over 2. These are the values that will make that expression, one that we started off with, 5C, undefined. All right? Questions on this? Make sense? And 6C. All right, I'm going to 6C right now. So here we go with 6C. So I have 4x squared plus x minus 5 over x cubed minus x squared times x squared plus 2x divided by 4x squared plus 13x plus 10. 1 second. 9j. Okay, okay. I'll get that next. So what we want to do here, right, is you want to factor, right? Factor everything, top, bottom, and then cross out the like terms, and then that's the end of the question. All right. So I'm gonna start. Sorry. I'm gonna start off with the 4x squared plus x minus 5. Set that equal to 0. All right. Actually, no, wait. Let's do the AC method on this. A times C is equal to 4 times negative 5. Call that negative 20. And B is equal to 1. Now I need two numbers that when I multiply them together will give me a negative 20, but when I add them together, give me a positive 1. So I'm thinking about positive 5 and negative 4. That's negative 20. And 5 plus negative 4, that's positive 1. So I have 4x squared plus 5x minus 4x minus 5. And now what do you want to do? You want to factor by grouping, right? So I'm going to group the two terms on the left, two terms on the right. Greatest common factor here is going to be what? X. And I'm left with what? I'm left with 4x plus 5. Left-hand side, greatest common factor there is negative 1, right? Divide by negative 1, so I'm left with what? 4x plus 5. Greatest common factor again, I have 4x plus 5 times, excuse me, x minus 1. So that's our numerator right here. 4x plus 5, x minus 1. Denominator, greatest common factor is x squared. That's going to leave back x minus 1. Numerator, greatest common factor there is just x. That's going to leave back x plus 2. Denominator, let's try that out. So I got 4x squared plus 13x plus 10. AC method, A times C is going to give me 4 times 10. Call that 40. And then my B term is 13. So I need two numbers that when I multiply them will give me 40, but when I add them together will give me 13. What are they? It's not 10 and 4. I'm trying to think. Hmm. 8 and 5, right? And then 8 plus 5, 13. Okay, that's it. So now I got 4x squared plus 8x plus 5x plus 10. Right? You want to group these together. Left-hand side, they have both have 4x in common. Just like we're dividing by 4x. We're dividing by 4x, right? What's left over? We have x, and we have plus 2, right? On the right-hand side, greatest common factor is a plus 5. So it's like we're dividing by 5, dividing by 5. We're left with x plus 2. Greatest common factor again, I have x plus 2, and I have 4x plus 5. Let's write that in. X plus 2, 4x plus 5. Good. Now, all we want to do is cross out the like terms, right? So, for example, I have 4x plus 5 here, 4x plus 5 here, x minus 1, x minus 1, x plus 2, x plus 2. I'm going to cross out the square in this x. So what am I left with? My final answer, 1 over x. And that's it. Questions on this? All right. If there's no questions, let's that was 6C, so let's look at 9J. All right, this one is 9J. So I have 1 over 2 plus the square root of 3. Remember, it's illegal for me to have radicals in my denominator, so I have to rationalize my denominator. And we do that by multiplying by conjugate. Conjugate, remember, is opposite, right? So this is going to become what? 2 minus the square root of 3. But what you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. And then you just multiply straight across, right? You know, 1 times anything is itself, right? So the top is just 2 minus square root of 3, right? For the bottom, we got a FOIL, right? So 2 times 2, you know that's 4. 2 times negative square root 3 is negative 2 square root 3. Positive square root 3 times 2 is positive 2 square root 3. And then positive square root 3 times negative square root 3 is just negative 3. Now combine like terms, you know, these middle ones are going to cancel out. So I have 2 minus square root 3 over 4 minus 3. Call that 1. So 2 minus square root 3 over 1. And you could just say 2 minus square root 3 as the answer. Questions on that?
Wait, and so I have a question.
Go ahead.
For the we multiply the bottom by the top, so we get the negative 2 and square root 3, and then we just
Mhm.
FOIL the bottom and that's the answer, or
Yep, that's it.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just remember it's illegal to have radicals in your denominator. So we have to get rid of them. All right. Let's jump to another question. So in this question, we want to factor completely. All right. So first thing we got to do, let's look for that greatest common factor. I'm seeing a 2, so I'm going to pull out 2. So I feel like 2x to the third power, right? Remember, you always pull out the one with the smallest power. So that would be the x to the third, right? So now we're going to divide by 2, x to the third. Divide by 2, x to the third. Let's see what happens. So this is going to become what? 25, x to the fourth. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. 18 divided by 2 is 9. X to the third cancels out, leaving back y to the second. And then now, what do we want to do? Let's factor this further. We have the difference of two perfect squares here. So remember, one is going to be a plus, one is going to be a minus, right? So I'm going to have what? 5x squared minus 3y times 5x squared plus 3y. And that's it. That's our question. Any questions on this? This is called factor completely.
Hello, Professor.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good,
Did you
good.
put on Brightspace when the review classes were?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
You said we were gonna have like review sessions.
Yep, that's what this is.
Oh, okay, okay. And
Yeah.
this is the last one?
Yep, this is our last class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's being recorded, so it'll be posted. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, okay.
And yeah, so basically what I was saying is you could look over the review that was posted, and if you have any questions that you would like to see me go over, like I'll do that. Otherwise, like I have some random questions that I'm going over.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Same instructions as before, right? We want to factor completely. But we have one, two, three, four terms here. So we're gonna factor by grouping, right? So we're gonna group the first two terms together, group the last two terms together. In the first two terms, they both have a in common. So remember, when you factor out of a, it's like you're dividing by a. It's like you're dividing by a. And what does that leave over? That leaves 2 plus b. On the right-hand side, I have negative 2c minus bc. They both have a negative, negative c in common, right? So it's like I'm divided by negative c, like I'm divided by negative c. Right, negative and the c's will cancel out, leaving back just 2. And then the negatives and the c will cancel out, leaving back just the positive b. Greatest common factor, again, this is going to become 2 plus b. And then whatever's on the outside, and right on the inside, a minus c. And that's it. This is the full answer. Questions on this? Okay, let's keep it moving. This is another factor completely question. You guys have options now, so I'm not really picky on how you give me the answer. Just give me the right answer. You know, for this, I'm going to use the AC method. So A times C is equal to 3 times negative 2. Let's call that negative 6. And my B term is 1. I need two numbers that when I multiply them will give me a negative 6, and when I add them together will give me a positive 1. I'm thinking about 3 and negative 2. That's negative 6. And how about 3 plus negative 2? That's positive 1. Let's rewrite this. So I have 3x squared, right? plus 3x minus 2x minus 2. And then we want to group these together, right? On my left-hand side, I have 3x squared plus 3x. They both have 3x in common, so I'm going to factor out 3x. When I factor out 3x, it's like I'm dividing by 3x both times. 3's will cancel, x and the square will cancel, leaving back just x. And 3x divided by 3x is simply just 1. On the right-hand side, they both have -2 in common. So it's like I'm dividing by -2, like I'm dividing by -2, right? So -2's will cancel, leaving back just x. -2 divided by -2 is +1, right? Greatest common factor, I have x plus 1. What's left over? 3x minus 2. And that's it. That's my answer. Questions on this? All right, I heard 9, B, and C. Okay. So this is 9, B, and C from the review. So for B, we're going to multiply numbers with numbers, radicals with radicals, right? 2 times 3 is 6. Radical 3 times radical 5 is radical 15. That's it. That's the answer. Right? For C, you're going to have to distribute, right? So 4 times 5, that's 20. 4 times -3 square root 2 is going to give me a -12 square root 2. Right? Square root 2 times 5 is going to give me a +5 square root 2. And last, positive square root 2 times -3 square root 2 is going to give me a -3 times 2. Right? Then after that, just multiply and combine like terms, all that good stuff. So 20 minus 12 square root 2 plus 5 square root 2 minus 6, combine like terms. 20 minus 6, what's that? 14. And -12 minus 5, what's that? -7 square root 2. And then that's my final answer. Questions on that? All right. Next question has a little bit of a typo in it, so I'm gonna fix it up for you guys. It says to solve the quadratic equation by factoring, so that means that we have 5x squared plus 15x minus 50 is equal to 0. All right, so now I want to get those answers. X equals what and x equals what? The greatest common factor here is 5. Leaves me back with x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. All right. Two numbers that multiply to give me 10 and add up to 3. I'm thinking about x plus 5 and x minus 2. After that, just set both of these equal to 0. X plus 5 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. And we're going to subtract 5 from here. So if x is equal to -5, I'm going to add 2 over here. What you do to one side, do to the other. So I have x is equal to +2. So these are my answers. Questions on that? Okay. So I heard 18 ABC. Okay. So this is 18 ABC, right? So it says given that triangle ABC is a right triangle with C equal to 90 degrees, it says find the missing sides. Okay. So I'm going to start off with A. I have cosine of A is equal to 1/3, right? And I have that B is equal to 2, all right? So, one sec. Just want to verify something. Nope. Okay. I apologize. So do not use that triangle that's above. It's just simply this part right here. Cosine A is equal to 1/3 and B is equal to 2. That's it. All right? One second. About 20, Bryce. Okay. So cosine A is equal to 1/3 and B is equal to 2. All right. So let's say I have a sorry. Let's say I have a triangle like so. This is my C, right? That's the 90-degree angle, which means that this is leg C. And I'm just going to call the top part up here A and then B. So opposite angle A is leg A, opposite angle B is leg B, right? And I know that cosine of A is 1/3. Cosine is what? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So katoa, right? So what's my adjacent to A? That's the B, so that's 1, right? What's my hypotenuse? That's the longest side right there. That's the 3, right? And then we have another triangle here. This is a similar triangle. It's a similar triangle, right? Where this B is equal to 2, but I don't know what that C and that A is. Right? So I want to figure out what is the C and the A of this triangle, right? So first off, we could start off with let's start off with the first triangle, right? The one that has the B equals 1 to C equals 3. Let's figure out what that A is. How do we do that? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And just plug it in. A squared plus 1 squared is equal to 3 squared. A squared plus 1 is equal to 9. Subtract 1. A squared is equal to 8. square root to get a by itself. So I have a is equal to, what's that? Square root 4 times square root 2. Call that 2 square root 2. 2 square root 2. That's it. Right? Now I can compare these triangles together to get what my other A and the C is, right? Because remember, this is what I want. I want this C and I want this A right here, right? So we use proportions to do that, right? So let's say I'm gonna tackle the C first. I'm gonna tackle the C first, right? So using the first triangle, I'm gonna say B over C for the first triangle, right? Call that B1 and C1, right? What is that? That's 1 over 3, right? And then for the second triangle, B2 over C2, I'm going to call that 2 over C. Let's put these together. 1/3 is equal to 2 over C. Cross multiply. Cross multiply, right? 1 times C is equal to 2 times 3. So C is equal to 6. Now that I know what C is, I can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what A is over here. All right? So I have 2 squared is equal to 6 squared plus A squared, right? A squared plus 4 is equal to 36. All right, so A squared is equal to 32. Square root both sides. A is equal to square root 16 times 2. Let's call that 4 square root 2. So 4 square root 2. And that's it. That's how you do these questions. Any questions on this? Remember that you have your formula sheet, right? And on your formula sheet, it gives you the SOHCAHTOA, so you don't have to memorize that. Do one more because I have some other things that I want to get to. This is question B. So I have tan of A is equal to 2 over 3, right? So let's say I have a triangle where this is a 90-degree. This is C. This is leg C. This is angle A. This is angle B. This is leg A, leg B. Now tan is opposite over adjacent, right? So what is opposite the angle A, right? It's going to be this A. That's 2. And the adjacent will be 3. Very simple. And then I have another triangle, similar triangle, where in this triangle, the B is equal to 6. All right. Now, what do I want? I want A and I want C, right? In this triangle. I want A and C in this triangle. So let's start it off, right? Using the first triangle, right? I'm going to do 3 over 2 So that's like B1 over C1 is going to be equal to B2 over, I'm sorry, B1 over A1. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Over B2 over A2, which is equal to 6 over A. Let's put these together. 3 over 2 is equal to 6 over A. Cross multiply, right? Cross multiply. So 3 times A is equal to 2 times 6. So 3A is equal to 12 divided by 3. A is equal to 4. So now, very simply, just use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's an answer, by the way. And then just plug it in, right? A is 4. B is 6. I don't know what C is, right? 16 plus 36 is equal to C squared. Let's put those together or add them up. It's 12, so it's like 2 and 1 over 552 is equal to C squared. And then I feel like, let me see. Yeah. So then we can square root both sides. This is going to become square root 4 times square root 13 is equal to C. Square root of 4 we know is 2. Square root 13 is equal to C. And that's my C. 2 square root 13. All right, any questions on that? So first you make a proportion. You solve for one of the variables, and when you have two of the variables, you use the Pythagorean theorem to get a third. And that's it. Okay. Let's look at this question. So I want to solve the quadratic equation. X squared minus 8x is equal to 1 by completing the square. Let's write that down. X squared minus 8x is equal to 1. And we have our formula, right? Sorry, hold on. We have negative b over 2a squared, right? Just plug it in. So I'm going to have negative of negative 8 divided by 2 times 1 squared. Let's call that 4 squared. Let's call that 16. You're going to then add 16 to both sides. On the left-hand side, we have a perfect square trinomial. This is going to factor out to be x minus 4 squared, which will be equal to 17. All right. And then now all you have to do is just solve for x. So to solve for x, I'm going to square root both sides. So now I'm left with x minus 4, right, is equal to, whoops, I'm sorry. It's not a good looking for x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 17. And then what do I want to do? I want to add 4 over here. What I do to one side, you know I got to do to the other. So this is my answer here. X is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 17. You can give it to me like this, or you can give me two separate answers. You can say x1 is equal to 4 minus square root 17, and x2 is equal to 4 plus square root 17. So I'll take either answer, either one that you want to give me. Okay? Questions on that? All right, let's keep it moving then. So in this question, right, we want to solve the quadratic equation. So we want to solve the quadratic equation and express the solution in the simplest radical form, and you can use any method to do so. All right. I feel like we've seen completing the square, and we've seen the AC method. So let's do the quadratic formula. Just to recap, quadratic formula is also on your formula sheet. So what I want to do here, we have to get this into standard notation. So I'm gonna subtract 2 over here. I do to one side, do to the other. So now I have 3x squared minus 9x plus 3 is equal to 0, right? Now you remember that in order for me to use the quadratic formula, everything has to be in standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. I'm going to make my life a little bit easier because I see that there's a common factor here. I'm going to factor that out, factor out 3, and I'm left with what? X squared minus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. Now let's use the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. And then you just plug it in. So negative of negative b, which would be negative 3, plus or minus the square root, negative 3 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a, which is 1. And then you just do the math on it. Negative and negative is positive, plus or minus square root. What's that? 9 minus 4, all over 2. Now we can just keep going with this. This is going to become 3 plus or minus square root 5 over 2. And then this is it. You can give me the answer like that, or if you want to give me two separate answers. If you want to give me x is equal to 3 minus square root 5 over 2, and x is equal to 3 plus square root 5 over 2, I'll take that as well. Well, that's it. Any questions on this? Absolutely. We got more coming up. If I have to be honest with you guys, completing the square is more my favorite. All right, let's take a look at this. So they're asking me to simplify this. So I have to factor this. So I'm going to factor the top. This is going to be x plus 1, x minus 1, because that's a difference of two perfect squares. Then we want to factor the bottom. And then x plus 2 is already simplified, and the x is already simplified, right? But I'm going to make this a little interesting, right? Since we asked for more completing the square, x squared plus 3x plus 2. Let's solve this by completing the square, right? So I'm going to subtract 2 from over here. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So I have x squared plus 3x is equal to negative 2. Remember our formula? Negative b over 2a squared, right? So in our case, it's going to be negative 3 over 2 times 1 squared, right? So this is going to be what? This is like 9 over 4. So I'm going to add 9 over 4 to both sides. Let me just rewrite that because that doesn't look very good. X squared plus 3x plus 9 over 4 is equal to negative 2 over 1 plus 9 over 4, right? On the left-hand side, right, I have a perfect square trinomial, right? This is a little tip I have, right? Say I don't know what to factor this into. Whatever I squared over here, that's what's going to go over here, right? These are both positive, so you know this is going to be a positive, right? And then boom, this is the 3 over 2. All right, squared is equal to, let's see, LCD times 4 times 4. All right, call that negative 8. Negative 8 plus 9 is what? Hold on. So that's going to be 1 over 4. And then very simply, just solve for x. So I'm going to square root both sides. This is going to give me x plus 3 over 2 is equal to 1 over 2, plus or minus 1 over 2. Then I'm going to subtract the 3 over 2 over here. So now what do I have? I have x is equal to negative 3 over 2 plus or minus 1 over 2. Excuse me. So I'm going to have two answers, right? X is going to be negative 3 over 2 minus 1 over 2. Call that negative 4 over 2. Call that negative 2. You're going to have another answer, negative 3 over 2 plus 1 over 2. Call that negative 2 over 2. Let's call that negative 1. All right? Now, if I set both of these equal to the answer, all I have to do is just add this over here to get back to the factor. Right? See that? Same thing with the other one, right? If I said this x is equal to negative 1, and add 1 over here, add 1 over here, that gives me back, I get straight back to the factor, which is what I want. So x plus 2, x plus 1. And then after that, just cross out the like terms, x plus 2, x plus 2, x plus 1, x plus 1. Final answer, x minus 1 over x. You don't have to complete the square to do this question. I was just doing that just to give you guys more practice. Just simply factor it and cross out the like terms. That's all you have to do. Questions? All right, let's keep it moving. So I want to simplify this expression over here. All right. So I have 7x over x squared minus 5x minus 14 divided by x squared plus 5x over x plus 2. So you already know, first thing I'm going to do, keep, change, flip. All right. Keep, change, flip. So this is going to be 7x over x squared minus 5x minus 14. Change that division to multiplication. Flip the other one. So it's going to be x plus 2 over the x squared plus 5x. After that, just factor. Just factor. 7x. What's this? X minus 7. X plus 2 times the x plus 2 times x plus 5. You just cross out the like terms. X plus 2, x and x will cancel. And then that's it. Put it all together. You have 7 over x minus 7, x plus 5. And that's it. That's your answer. Questions on this?
Yeah, how did the x squared become x minus 7?
How did the x squared become what?
Yeah, the
Oh, the x
7x
minus 7
over.
and x plus
Yeah,
2?
yeah.
I factored it. Right? So you can do the AC method if you want, right? So we have x squared minus 5x minus 14. If we do a times c, that's going to give me 1 times, sorry, it's going to be 1 times negative 14. Call that negative 14. And then my b term is negative 5. After that, I need two numbers that when I multiply them together will give me a negative 14. But when I add them together, will give me a negative 5. So I found out negative 7 and positive 2. That's going to give me negative 14. And negative 7 plus 2, that's giving me negative 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So then after that, you already know. X squared minus 7x plus 2x minus 14. Group them together. This is x times x minus 7. This is 2 times x minus 7. And then you have x minus 7, x plus 2. And that's it.
Okay, I got it.
I'm sorry?
I got it.
Awesome, awesome. All right, let's keep it moving. So I want to simplify this expression. I have 3 over x squared minus 9 divided by 7 over x plus 3 minus 4 over x minus 3. All right. Before I can simplify this, is that the right word? Before I can divide this, right, I want to get the same denominator, right? And in the bottom, because I want to divide a fraction by a fraction, right? So my first step here, right, is the bottom. I want to get the LCD, right? LCD of the bottom is just x plus 3, x minus 3. So for the x plus 3, I'm going to multiply this by x minus 3. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. For the x minus 3, I'm going to multiply that by x plus 3. But what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So now what do I have? I have 3 over x squared minus 9 over 7 times x minus 3 minus 4 times x plus 3 over x plus 3, x minus 3. Now, if you want, you could do keep, change, flip, right? So we want to keep. Let me write it horizontally first. I'm just copying the question real quick. Okay, so now what I'm saying is we can do keep, change, flip. So this is going to become 3 over x squared minus 9 times x plus 3, x minus 3 over the 7 times x minus 3 minus 4 times x plus 3. And then let's just do the math on this. This is going to become 3 over x plus 3, x minus 3 times x plus 3, x minus 3. Let's distribute this. So I should get 7x minus 21 minus 4x minus 12. Combine like terms. I should have 3 over the x plus 3, x minus 3 times x plus 3, x minus 3 over, what's that? 3x minus 33. Let's factor that out. I have 3 over x plus 3, x minus 3 times x plus 3, x minus 3 over 3 times x minus 11. Just cross out the like terms. X plus 3, x plus 3, x minus 3, x minus 3, 3 and 3. So final answer, 1 over x minus 11. Questions on that? Okay. So in this question, I want to solve for x. However, remember, these are rational expressions. In order for me to do that, I have to have the same denominator. So first thing I want to do, I want to factor this stuff out. So I have x over the x minus 2 plus 3 over the x plus 7 is equal to 2x plus 29 over, what's this, x plus 7, x minus 2. So LCD here, this is going to be the x plus 7, x minus 2. So let's let them all have the same denominator. So I'm going to multiply the x minus 2 by x plus 7. But what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. I'm going to multiply the x minus 7 times x minus 2. What I do to the bottom, what I do to the top. Now remember, this is a rational equation. So when I have the equal sign and everybody has the same denominator, I no longer need the denominator. So I simply just have x times x plus 7 plus 3 times x minus 2 is equal to 2x plus 29. Distribute, combine like terms, solve for x, all that good stuff. All right? I'm going to distribute this. This is going to be x squared plus 7x. Distribute this. Plus 3x minus 6 is equal to the 2x plus 29. Let's combine like terms on this. I have x squared plus 10x minus 6 is equal to 2x plus 29. Let's subtract 2x from over here, where we do to one side, do to the other. So I have x squared minus 8, plus 8x minus 6 is equal to 29. I'm going to subtract 29 from over here, where I do to one side, do to the other. So now I have x squared plus 8x minus 35 is equal to 0, right? So now we just want to solve for x. Perfect opportunity to complete the square. So I'm going to add 35 over here. If I do to one side, I do to the other. So I have x squared plus 8x is equal to 35. You already know, right? We want to do our negative b over 2a squared, which is going to give me a negative 8 for 2 times 1. Ooh. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. This is negative 8 over 2 times 1 squared. Let's call that negative 4 squared. Call that 16. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides. All right. So on the left-hand side, this is going to be x plus 4 squared. And on the right-hand side, that's what is that? 51. So now I want to solve for x. So I'm going to square root both sides. When I do the one, do the other. So I have x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 51. And then I want to subtract 4. And what I do to one side, I got to do to the other. So now, what do I have? I have x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 51. You can give me that answer, or if you want to give me two answers separated, that's fine. So if you want to say x1 is equal to negative 4 minus square root 51, x2 is equal to negative 4 plus square root 51. If you want to give it to me like that, I'll take that as well. All right. Any questions on this? All right. This is not so bad, right? So what I want to do here is I just want to simplify this expression. Keep it simple, nothing crazy. So this is going to become what? Square root 4 times square root 5 plus 3 times square root 9 times square root 5 minus square root 100 times square root 5. Simplify this down, this becomes 2 square root 5 plus 3 times 3 square root 5 minus 10 square root 5. Multiply these out. I have 2 square root 5 plus 9 square root 5 minus 10 square root 5. All right, do the math on this. 11 square root 5 minus 10 square root 5 is just going to give me the plain old square root 5. Questions on this?
Can we do another one of these?
Sure. You have one from the review that you'd like to see?
No.
No.
I'll look. Hold on.
Let me see if I find one real quick. I got you.
Also, can we do some of the ones from 10, like the first one or C?
Okay. So 10, right?
Yeah, after the one that you're about to do.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
So this is A of question. I'm not even sure. Hold on. 9. This is 9A off of the review sheet. So I have 5 square root 12 minus 4 square root 3 plus square root 75. Just break it down. This becomes 5 square root 4 times square root 3 minus 4 square root 3 plus square root 25 times square root 3. Just pick out the largest perfect square. Simplify this down. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. Simplify this down. This is going to become 5 times 2 square root 3 minus 4 square root 3 plus 5 square root 3. Let's do the math on that. This is going to become 10 square root 3 minus 4 square root 3 plus 5 square root 3. And then let's just combine like terms, right? 10 minus 4, what's that? 6 square root 3 plus 5 square root 3. Final answer, 11 square root 3. Questions on this? All right. You mentioned 10. Is there any letter in particular?
We can start with A, the first one.
Okay. So everyone, this is 10A off of the review sheet. So we have 64 raised to the negative 2 over 3 power. Now you already know, right? Whenever I'm raising anything to a negative power, it's going to drop down into the denominator. Just like that, and the power becomes positive, right? But I'm gonna make this even more simple. Watch this. Always do your radical first. So I want to figure out what the cube root of 64 is. And then I want to square that. All right. This will make life so much easier. So the cube root of 64, what is that? I believe that's 4. And we know that 4 squared is just 1 over 16. Does that make sense?
Wait, so for the questions like that, the denominator is the one that we cube or like square or root by, and then we square it by the top part, the numerator.
Right. Always do the denominator part first and then do the numerator. It just makes life a lot easier.
But if it's negative, does it matter? Like we
Yeah,
still
if it's
just
negative, it drops down to the denominator.
okay.
Yeah, if it
But
was
if it was
positive, it'll
positive, it would
stay
be
on
the
top.
top.
Yeah, yeah, stay on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would cube the one if it was on top. If it was negative, if it was positive, I mean.
Well, if it was positive, it would just be 64 to the 2 over 3. So the final answer would just be plain 16 on top.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome anytime. All right. Let's look at some more. So with this question, I just want to simplify the expression. All right. Nothing crazy. You remember that this means what? This means square root 6 minus 2 times square root 6 minus 2. Just FOIL it. That's all you got to do. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. Square root 6 times square root 6 is just plain old 6. Square root 6 times negative 2 is going to give me a negative 2 square root 6. Negative 2 times square root 6 is going to give me a negative 2 square root 6. And a negative 2 times negative 2 is going to give me a positive 4. After that, just combine like terms, right? 6 plus 4, I feel like that's 10. Negative 2 square root 6 minus 2 square root 6 is negative 4 square root 6. And that's it. Questions on that? So let's look at this question over here. Sorry about that. Okay, so we want to express 27 to the negative 2 over 3 power as a fraction of lowest terms, right? So you already know what's going to happen. This is going to go into the denominator, so this becomes 1 over 27 to the 2 over 3 power. And again, do the denominator first, all right? This is going to become 1 over the cube root of 27, and then square that. Now, cube root of 27, if I'm not mistaken, that's 3. So this is 1 over 3 squared. And we know what 3 squared is. That's just 1 over 9. And that's it. Questions on this? Nobody? Okay. Well, we have this question now. So we want to simplify this expression. This is a little complicated, but it is not impossible. Just copying it down, 8x to the 6th, y to the 7, 27, x to the third y, raised to the 2 over 3 power. All right, the first thing you should do is simplify the inside first. Simplify the inside first. So this is going to become what? 8 over 27 raised to the 2 over 3 power, right? And then this should be x to the 6 over x to the third raised to the 2 over 3 power. And very simply, y to the 7 over y raised to the 2 over 3 power. Now, remember what I said when it comes to the numbers. Do the denominator first, right? So cube root of 8 over cube root 27. Then you want to square that. Simplify the inside, x to the 6 divided by x to the third. Remember, you subtract the powers. This becomes x to the third raised to the 2 over 3 power. Same thing with the y. Subtract the powers. This becomes y to the 6 raised to the 2 over 3 power. Cube root of 8 is 2. Cube root of 27, 3. You want to square that. Whenever you raise a power to a power, you multiply. So this becomes x to the 3 over 1 times 2 over 3. And this is going to become y to the 6 over 1 times 2 over 3. And then let's just finish this off. This is going to be 4 over 9 times x squared times y to the, that's 1, that's 2, y to the 4th. Put it all together, make it look nice. This is 4x squared y to the 4th over 9. Any questions on this? All right, I just saw a 10D. Okay. Okay. So everybody, this is 10D from the review sheet. So I have 27 x to the 5th y times y divided by 8 y cubed raised to the 1/3 power, right? So what I would do, break these up into the numbers. So we have 27 over 8. Let's raise that to the 1/3 power. Then we're going to have x to the 5th. Let's raise that to the 1/3 power. And then we're going to have y over y to the 3rd. Let's raise that to the 1/3 power. All right. So you already know what's going to happen. This is just cube root 27 over cube root of 8. Whenever you raise the power to a power, you multiply. So this is just x to the 5th over 1 times 1 over 3. Simplify the inside over here. This is going to become y to the -2 power, right? Because 1 minus 3 is -2. All right. So let's do this. Cube root of 27 we know is 3. Cube root of 8 is 2. Times multiply straight across. This is x to the 5 over 3 power. And then this is going to be y to the -2 over 1 times 1/3, right? Let's call that 3 over 2, x to the 5 over 3 times y to the negative 2 over 3. Right? Let's put that all together, make it look nice. This is going to be 3 x to the 5 over 3 power divided by 2 times y to the 2 over 3 power. All right? But I have a problem. Right? Remember, it's illegal for me to have radicals in my denominator, right? So, or in this case, fractions. So I have to rationalize this denominator. So I'm going to multiply this by y to the 1/3, because that will get rid of the fraction on the y in the denominator. What you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. And when we multiply this straight across, what do we get? We get 3 x to the 5 over 3, y to the 1/3 over 2 times y. This is my final answer. Questions on this? Okay. Let's keep it moving. In this situation, I want to rationalize my denominator because remember, it's illegal for me to have radicals in my denominator, right? So I have 3 over square root 5 minus 1. And what you want to do is you want to multiply by the conjugate. Remember, conjugate means opposite. So this is going to be square root 5 plus 1. But remember, what you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. Square root 5 plus 1. And after that, just multiply straight across. This one's going to be a distribute. This is going to give me 3 square root 5 plus 3. And on the bottom, I'm going to have what? Square root 5 times square root 5 is 5. Plus square root 5 minus square root 5 minus 1. Right? Because negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. Combine like terms, these cancel out. So I have 3 square root 5 plus 3 over 4. And then that's it. You could give it to me like this. Or if you want to go a step further, factor out the greatest common factor up top. And give me square root 5 plus 1 over 4. I take this answer too. Whatever makes you happy. Okay. Questions on that? All right, let's keep it moving. In this question, I want to rationalize the denominator. Because remember, it's illegal for me to have radicals in my denominator. This one is not so bad. I have square root x minus 3 square root y over square root x. All you have to do is just multiply by square root x. But what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. And that's it. Distribute, combine like terms, all that good stuff, right? So at the top, boom, boom. Square root x times square root x is just plain old x minus 3 square root xy. Ooh, sorry about that. X minus 3 square root xy, all divided by x. And then this is my final answer. Questions on this? All right. Let's keep it moving then. So in this next question, I want to solve for x. So I have square root x squared minus 16 plus 2 is equal to x. What am I going to do? Subtract 2 from over here. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So now I have square root x squared minus 16 is equal to x minus 2, right? So what I did there was I isolated my radical. After you isolate your radical, you want to square it to get rid of the radical. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So now what do we have? We have x squared minus 16 is equal to, what's this? X squared minus 4x plus 4, right? If you're wondering how I got that, that's just the x minus 2 times x minus 2, and then you just FOIL it, right? That's how you get that answer. Anyway, we're going to solve for x, right? Not so bad, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to subtract x squared from over here. What I do to one side, I got to do to the other. And then I want to subtract 4 from over here. I do to one side, do to the other. So now I have negative 20 is equal to a negative 4x. And I want to divide by negative 4. What do you do to one side, you do to the other. So I have x is equal to 5. Questions on this? Okay, let's keep it moving. So in this question, I just want to simplify the expression. All right. So all we're going to do here, you're just going to distribute and then combine like terms. Distribute, and then combine like terms. So 3 times 2, let's call that 6. 3 times negative 7i is going to give me a negative 21i. Negative 5i times 2 is going to give me a negative 10i. And then negative 5i times negative 7i is going to give me a positive 35i squared. And then negative times 4 is going to give me a negative 4. Negative times negative is a positive. This is going to be 3i. At this point, let's take care of the square. So I have 6 minus 21i minus 10i plus 35 times the negative 1 minus 4 plus 3i. Let's do the multiplication. This is going to be 6 minus 21i minus 10i minus 35 minus 4 plus 3i. After this, just combine like terms, right? So 6 minus 35, what's that? Like negative 29. And then minus 4, I think that's like what, negative 33? And then negative 21i minus 10i, that's negative 31i, right? Plus 3i. What's that? That's going to be negative 28i. And that's it. That's your final answer. Is there any questions on this? All right, let's keep it moving. Now we have this question. Not so bad. So we have a triangle ABC. It's a right triangle where C is equal to 90, and we want tan of A and cosine of B. Before we do that, we have to find what C is. Find out what C is. So we do the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Just plug it in, right? 4 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. 16 plus 25 equals C squared. All right. So 10, 11, 3, 4, 41 is equal to C squared. Then we're going to square root both sides, right? Get rid of the square. So we get C is equal to square root 41. Okay. That's not so bad. So now we want to know, what is tan of A? Now you remember, right? SOHCAHTOA. So tan is opposite over adjacent, right? So opposite is going to be the 4. And then the adjacent, right, is going to be 5. That's it. That's the whole answer for tan of A. Now they ask you, what is cosine of B? Now you remember cosine is what, adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So from angle B, what's the adjacent? 4 over the hypotenuse, square root 41. But remember, I can't have radicals in my denominator, so you have to multiply this by square root 41 over square root 41. Final answer, 4 square root 41 over 41. All right? Questions on this? SOHCAHTOA is on your formula sheet, so don't worry. Now we have this question. So triangle ABC is a right triangle where C is equal to 90. If tan A is equal to 3 over 5 and A is equal to 12, find C. All right? So I have a right triangle. Let's call this angle C. This is leg C. It's angle A. Call this leg A. Angle B. Call this leg B. All right? So what I want to know, they're saying that tan A is equal to 3 over 5, right? So over here, this is angle A. Remember, tan is opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 3, adjacent is 5. And I have another triangle, which is similar, right? This is angle C, leg C, angle A, leg A, angle B, leg B, where A is 12. All right. And in this question, what we want is we want to know what is C. All right. So from triangle A, oh, excuse me, from the first triangle, all right, let's look at B1 over C1. Let's call that 5 over 3. Over here, we have what? B2 over C2. Let's call that B over 12. Put them together, I have 5 over 3 is equal to B over 12. What do you do after that? Cross multiply. 3 times B is equal to 5 times 12. 3B is equal to, what's that, 60? Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. 5 times 12. 3B is equal to 60. Divide by 3. So then I have what? B is equal to 20. All right. So now I know what B is. All I have to do is just do a little Pythagorean theorem on this and I'm done. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Sorry. So I have 12 squared plus 20 squared is equal to C squared. 144 plus 400 is equal to C squared. So 544 is equal to C squared. And we want to square root both sides to get rid of the square on the C. So I have C is equal to 544. I feel like 4 will go into that. Bear with me 1 second. Let's call that square root 16, square root 34. Call that 4, square root 34. And then yeah, I think that's it. 4 square root 34. 4 square root 34. That was hard, I'm not gonna lie. That one, the radical wasn't easy to figure out on that one. All right, is there any questions on this? Anybody? All right, so believe it or not, what I've actually done is I've actually gone through every single question that's going to be on your final. All right. So you all have it here on the recording. So for the rest of the class, does anybody have any questions they'd like to go over? Anything from the review sheet?
Triangle questions?
I'm sorry?
Can we do more triangle questions? Because they're
Sure,
kind of
sure.
confusing.
Sure. I was gonna do the last one that I skipped. So I skipped C. I was gonna
That's
do
fine. That's fine.
yeah. And if some of the review questions that I'm going over right now seem like really, really simple, like too simple, there's a reason for that because that's the way the final is. All right. So in this question, I have cosine B is equal to 1 over 4, and I have C is equal to 12, right? So if I have a triangle, right? Let's call this angle C, leg C, angle A, angle B, leg A, leg B, right? Cosine of B, so I'm right here, is 1 over 4. Cosine, remember, is adjacent over hypotenuse. What's the adjacent? It's going to be 1, and the hypotenuse is going to be 4. Ooh, why did I write C there? That's A. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Anyway, I have a similar triangle. All right. This is angle C, leg C, angle A, leg angle B is going to be leg B, leg A. Okay. And I'm telling you in this triangle, right, this is 12. Now, what I want to do is I want to figure out what is B and what is A, right? So let's do our similar triangles, right? So in the first triangle, I'm going to call this C1 over A1. That's just going to be 4 over 1. And in our triangle, the second triangle, call this C2 over A2. This is going to be 12 over A. After that, we're going to have 4 over 1 is equal to 12 over A. Then we're going to cross multiply, just like that. So I have 4 times A is equal to 12 times 1. 4A is equal to 12. Divide by 4, divide by 4. A is equal to 3. So this is 3 right here. All I have to do, all I have to do now is a little Pythagorean theorem and I figure out B. Not so bad, right? So I have A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared, right? Just plug it in. 3 squared plus B squared is equal to 12 squared. 36 plus B squared is equal to 144. Subtract 36. So I have B squared is equal to, what's that, 8? 108. Then I want to square root this. Sorry. So I have B. Sorry, 1 second. One second, a little technical difficulty. One second. Basically, square root 108, and that's your answer, but hold on. Little technical difficulty on my end. So I have B. B is equal to everything is like freezing on me. I apologize. Give me 1 second. One second. Sorry about that. I might have to do that one again because Excel is not cooperating at the moment. One second. All right, got it back, got it back, got it back. Awesome. Sorry about that. So let's continue. This will be 5 times 12. I'm just finishing this up again. 3b is equal to 60. Divide by 3, divide by 3, b is equal to 20. All right. And then once again, Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We're going to have 12 squared plus 20 squared is equal to c squared. 144 plus 400 is equal to c squared. 544 is equal to c squared. Then you just square root both sides. I feel like the 544 was divided by 16, if I'm not mistaken. So square root 16 times square root 34 equals c. So 4 square root 34. And then that's that. 4 square root 34. Wasn't quite the one we were going over, but close enough. Anyway, Is there any questions? Anything that you guys would like to go over? You have now all seen what is going to appear on the final. There are study halls that are available that you guys can go to if you want to practice this stuff again. No problem. Please take advantage of tutoring. I'm still accepting the test corrections, so you guys are always welcome to go there and do your test corrections. If you're missing any exams, just make an appointment to see me in person, and then I'll give you the exam. What else is there? Homework, make sure you guys stay on top of that. I'm not posting any new homework, but you guys should, complete as much as you can. All right, I'm hoping that everybody gets 100 on homework. All right, no pressure. You have this entire week to complete whatever homework you're missing. Okay. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I guess we can wrap it up early for today. I'm gonna make an announcement, and in that announcement, I'm gonna have all the study hall informations in case you guys want to go. I'm gonna have the what's it called? You guys are gonna know about the final. Every question that's on the final, you guys have seen through this review. Just rewatch it. You guys have the review sheet in case you guys want to do more practice. Go to tutoring and ask them for help with the practice if you encounter something that doesn't make sense. Okay. And that's that. So I will see everybody on Tuesday, all right, the 17th for our final at 2. All right. So have a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.